As a dungeon master, one of the most important things you have to do is put your players in the perfect setting. It could be a cave, a coliseum, or even an outhouse that you found in the ethereal plane. But when it comes to tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, one of the most pivotal environments to place your players in is the infamous dungeon setting. I mean, it's in the name of the game, it kinda just makes sense. A dungeon can put you through quite difficult situations like solving an impossible puzzle while the ceiling slowly falls from above, figuring out how to disarm tricky traps, or searching for clues that will lead you to the hidden cult in the catacombs that random drunk guy told you about at the tavern. But there's also creatures lurking in the depths of dungeons. They could be scaly and brute-like, or they can even look like ordinary objects. Picking the monsters to use in your dungeons can be hard at times, but in my opinion, there are some that are so synonymous with the setting, it's almost impossible not to pluck them in somewhere. With that being said, my name is Skiflack, welcome back to Crithalla, and this is my list for the top 5 monsters to use in a dungeon setting. Number 5, Zorn. Let's start off with a weird one, and one that many people might not even think of. The Zorn are extremely strange creatures, with 3 large arms extending out of their short yet stout bodies to help them burrow through earth and stone with ease. They have giant mouths on the top of their heads, and they always come out of the earth mouth first, devouring anything in its path. The Zorn have some spectacular abilities for underground use, such as their stone camouflage ability, that gives them advantage on stealth checks when hiding in stony environments. They also have the Earth Glide ability that lets them pass through any earth or stone that isn't magical, and when they do, they don't disrupt the integrity of the material at all. So essentially, you could just be walking down a long hallway in a stone-like structure, and a Zorn could just pop out of the side of the wall without you even realizing it. But what I think makes them such a great option for a dungeon is the fact that Zorn love eating gemstones and precious metals. Their treasure sense ability allows them to sniff out any type of coins or gems in an 80-foot area. So, when you finally get into the deep depths of the underground to recover that treasure that you've been looking for, don't be surprised to find a Zorn has already made it its lunch, and that gold in your pocket, it looks like it's going to be its dinner. Zorn are quite strong as well. They have a 19 AC, slashing and piercing damage resistances, and a nasty multi-attack. I would recommend making a Zorn a final boss for lower level characters, or a tough fight for mid-range characters. Number 4, Mimics. Now, if I'm going to say that the dungeon is the most prominent setting for your players, then I have to say that the Mimic is the magnus opus of monsters to use in such an atmosphere. Mimics are a shape-changing creature. They can turn into essentially anything you could possibly think of. And as a DM, that type of versatility is very desirable for any setting. A mimic could be a door, a bookcase, or a bear rug that your druid buddy just can't stop sobbing over. But the most popular look for the mimic has to be the treasure chest. Going off their false appearance ability, when they become an object, they don't move, and embellish the true form of the object they transformed into, making it nearly impossible to spot. However, when they come out of this static state, whatever object they are suddenly becomes jagged and morphed, with tons of sharp teeth and terrifying eyes. Mimics also have the adhesive ability, which lets them basically stick on and grapple anything it's holding, making them excellent if you're trying to ground a player. Unfortunately, due to their flexible use in literally any setting you could possibly think of, I have to put them high up on this list, though they are still an excellent choice for your dungeon. With their stats, Mimics are useful for a challenging low-level fight, or a nice surprise for your higher-level characters. Number 3, Drow Dryders. The Drow are a very sneaky species of elves that have immense magical powers and dwell in the depths of the Underdark. They are very similar in appearance to any other elf, but the Drow's biggest difference is their darker skin tone. They also rarely leave the underground, and choose to make their own Underdark cities and towns, which makes finding them in places such as dungeons a common occurrence. Though Drow are quite skilled in combat, there's a different type of Drow that strikes fear in any creature it comes across. Deep in the confines of the Abyss houses the lesser deity known as Lilith, a spider queen that enslaved the Drow to do her evil bidding. The Drow were devout followers of Lilith. However, if they failed their queen in any way, they would be transformed gruesomely into spider-like creatures known as Dryders and exiled from their homes. Dryders are super tough to handle in a battle. They have spider-like abilities such as Spider Climb and Web Walker, which lets them climb any difficult surface, climb on ceilings, and have no issue climbing through their own sticky webs. Keeping to their Drow roots, Dryders can also cast spells such as Darkness and Fairy Fire at will. Finally, Dryders also have an intense multi-attack, utilizing their longswords and poisonous bite. I think putting a Dryder in for a hard-fought battle with mid-range characters is the best spot for these spider-like elves. Number 2. Kobolds. Hey look, it's everybody's favorite nuisance of the Forgotten Realms! Kobolds are a staple in the Dungeons & Dragons world, and have been in every iteration of the game, making consistent appearances in many campaigns. Kobolds are tiny reptilian-like creatures with scaly skin and spiky horns on the tops of their heads. They are mostly found in mine-like structures, and tend to live under the earth, making them perfect for any type of dungeon you create. Though they are somewhat weak in physique, these creatures make up for it in their intelligence. Kobolds are known for their impeccable trap-making skills, and come up with excellent plans to ambush any intruders entering their dungeons. What makes kobolds quite a pain to deal with is their pack tactic abilities, which gives them advantage on attack rolls against any creatures as long as there are other allies of the kobolds in a 5-foot radius. Kobolds don't have the best combat stats, but it's all about the sheer numbers of the pack, so making a kobold clan attack any level of players can be a challenge if balanced out correctly. Number 1! Minotaurs! Though I have monsters on this list like the Mimic, the Drow, and the Kobold, who are all super popular creatures to use in the dungeon setting, I can think of no better monster than the infamous Minotaur to put on the top. Just thinking of Minotaurs in pop culture such as movies, TV shows, and even animes, the Minotaur has always been known as the dungeon-dwelling creature that brutalizes the main protagonists and heroes, and in D&D, they are very similar to that trope as well. Minotaurs are bull-like monstrosities with massive horns on the top of their heads that stood on average around 7 feet tall on their 2 hoof-like feet. Their bodies were extremely muscular, and the roars of these beings could bring any man to their knees. Minotaurs are known to live in maze-like caverns and dungeons, and are believed to have played a massive part in the creation of the Labyrinth, which is a massive collection of tunnels in the Underdark. These monsters have some amazing abilities as well, such as their Labyrinthian Recall, which lets them remember any path they ever traveled, much like the Outlander's background for player characters. They also have the Reckless ability, which allows them to have advantage on all attack rolls it makes in a single turn. With their beefy stats, and their awesome charge attack that lets the Minotaur run straight at a creature, goring it for extra damage and knocking it prone, I would recommend using a Minotaur for stronger low-level characters, or well-equipped mid-level players. And there you have it, my list for the top 5 monsters to use in a dungeon setting. Thanks so much for watching! Were there monsters not on this list that you think should have been? Leave them in the comments below, along with what you thought of my list. Be sure to subscribe, like and share the video, and hit that bell for more content like this. Again, my name is Skitflack, thanks so much for checking out Crithalla, and good luck in your next dungeon exploration.